Have you ever had that feeling? That sense that you've been dropped right into the middle of a story that started long, long before you were even born? Well, that's really what sociology is all about, trying to make sense of this giant, complicated social world that we never made, but that we have to figure out how to live in every single day. You know, this old song lyric just nails it, doesn't it? That feeling of being a little overwhelmed by the sheer size and strangeness of it all. It's exactly this feeling of being bewitched, bothered, and bewildered that sociologists are trying to get to the bottom of. And this, right here, is the absolute key. I mean, think about it. You had zero say in what country you were born in, what family raised you, or the first language you learned to speak. None. Whether you showed up in Argentina or Australia, to a rich family or a struggling one, all of that was already there. We are all basically hurled into a game that's already in progress. Okay, to really get a handle on just how complex this pre-made world is, let's look at a modern example. This number, 4.4 billion, that's how many people flew on an airplane in just 1 year recently. That's more than half the people on the entire planet. The system that makes that possible, it is mind-boggling. And this is what's so wild about an airport when you really stop and look at it. It's not just a building. It is a breathtaking social structure. It's a whole universe of ticketing, baggage, security, and flight paths where thousands of people, pilots, cleaners, shopkeepers, you name it, are all doing things together in these incredibly precise ways. It's a miracle of social organization that we just take for granted. So, how in the world do you even start to analyze something that massive? Well, sociologists have a core concept they use to get a handle on it all. They just call it the social. So let's break down what that actually means. There are kind of two main ways to think about this. On one side, you've got Emil Durkheim. He saw the social as this powerful external thing, almost like a force of nature. Think of a crowd at a concert that has its own energy and just sweeps you along with it. But then you have George Simmel, who saw it more as the sum of all our interactions, a huge, shimmering web of people constantly talking to and relating to each other. And you know what? They're both right. It's both of those things at once. So to study all this, sociologists kind of look at it from 3 different altitudes. At the micro level, you're zooming way in on our daily face-to-face conversations. At the meso level, you're looking at how organizations work, like your school or your job. And then at the macro level, you zoom all the way out to see the giant structures, like the entire global economy that shape everything. All right, now that we have these tools, let's see how they actually work, because this is where the real power of sociology comes in. You can use this way of thinking to understand pretty much anything, and I mean anything. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, sociology, that's for the big heavy stuff, right? War, politics, poverty. And yeah, of course it is. But the real magic of the sociological imagination is seeing the powerful social forces hiding in the most ordinary, everyday things you could possibly think of. Yup, tomatoes. I know, it sounds a little ridiculous, but just stick with me here. This simple little fruit can actually tell us an incredibly complicated story about the world we live in. And check this out. A sociologist can trace the tomato all the way from its use in Aztec salsa to the invention of Heinz ketchup, and in doing so, show how it became a central piece of mass production. The journey of the tomato helps us understand global capitalism and even that weird paradox at the supermarket. How do we have 100 different kinds of pasta sauce when the system that brings them to us is more standardized than ever? Okay, if you thought tomatoes were strange, what about this one? Toilets. Seriously, what on earth could a toilet possibly tell us about society? Well, as it turns out, a whole lot. Believe it or not, the humble toilet is a global symbol of modernity and wealth. The fact that around 40% of the world's population doesn't have one is a brutal look into global inequality and public health. But toilets also expose all these unspoken social rules we have about our bodies, about privacy, and even gender. Just think about all the unwritten rules for how you're supposed to behave in a public restroom. And finally, let's look at something we pretty much all have right now. The telephone. Feels so personal, right? But its impact on society has been absolutely revolutionary. The phone has completely rewired our sense of time and space. We're in this state of what you could call perpetual contact with anyone, anywhere. It created entirely new cultures, especially for young people, and it's even speeding up how our language changes through things like texting and emojis. So the point is, even the most normal objects in our lives are just packed with social meaning. Okay, so let's zoom back out from tomatoes and toilets to that macro level again, because the sheer scale of our modern social world is something brand new in human history. Look at the acceleration here. For basically all of human history, the global population was pretty small. And then, in just a couple of hundred years, boom, we exploded from less than a billion people to a projected 9 billion by the middle of this century. This isn't just more people, it's a completely different kind of social world. And where are all these people living? Well, overwhelmingly in cities. In just over 50 years, the number of people living in cities multiplied by 5, from around 730 million to over 3.5 billion. It's one of the fastest, biggest migrations in the history of our species. And this incredible shift has led some thinkers, like Mike Davis, to argue that we now live on a planet of slums. This fast, often chaotic urbanization has created brand new ways of life, sure, but also incredible new challenges around inequality and survival. So, how do we make sense of it all? The world we never made, the secret life of tomatoes, the explosion of our cities? Well, sociology suggests that you need a very particular mindset. You need to be able to see the world as an outsider. To get that mindset, we have to fight against a really powerful human tendency called ethnocentrism. This is basically the deep down assumption that our way of doing things, our culture's common sense, is the only right and natural way. The whole goal of a sociologist is to challenge that, to step outside their own bubble and see their world as if for the very first time. And really, that's the challenge for you. This is about more than just learning some facts. It's about getting a new pair of eyes. If you could actually step back and look at this world you were hurled into, this world you never made, with fresh outsider eyes, what hidden patterns, what unspoken rules, what amazing connections are you going to start to see?